Things are much worse than we thought for the Dallas Mavericks. Do you see this right here?
I actually don't think they were going for the two.
This is a frustrated Luka Doncic making a money sign gesture, suggesting that the Golden State Warriors paid off the refs. Luka's symbolism would land him a $35,000 fine. According to the league, the gesture was inappropriate. Which brings us to the question, why was Luka even making this gesture in the first place? Well, after a timeout, the Mavericks would line up on the wrong side of the floor, which led to this basket.
Looney's like, hey, thank you very much. I've never.
The Mavs believed that a ref indicated that it was Dallas ball heading into the timeout. And then after that timeout, that same ref had an entirely different story. These 2 points would end up being gigantic for the Warriors, as the game would end up being a one-possession game late in the fourth quarter. This whole sequence had Mark Cuban so mad that the Mavericks were planning a formal protest of their L. With the Western Conference standing so tight and with the season winding down, I understand the Mavericks' frustration. I just wish that they had used that frustration as fuel for their upcoming games. Instead, they'd go on to drop 2 straight games to the Charlotte Hornets. This would cause frustration within the organization to reach a critical level, and we have to talk about that. But First off, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody that has joined my private Sora League. We're up to 72 members and we're still getting more. The league has been growing really fast. Shout out to everybody who joined. You guys are the real MVPs. For those of you that don't know what Sora is, let me show you by setting my lineup for this upcoming game week. And yeah, as you guys can see, my lineup is not too good, which is exactly why I'll be beefing up my team in the upcoming weeks. So if you guys want to beat me, this is the week, because after this, I'm not losing. Just like my boy DFBC98 didn't lose last week, scoring 255.31 points. Now for week 44, which just so happens to be this week, I have a giant announcement to make. The winner of this week's limited contender competition will receive a $100 NBA store gift card. Guys, use the link in the description to sign up for Sora and to join my private league. When you use that link, you'll receive 20 free common cards. With these common cards, you can enter into my common pickup tournament. But if you want a prize like an NBA store gift card, then be sure to enter into my limited contender tournament. Guys, major shout out to Sora for coming through and sponsoring today's content.
DJ calmly gets it to Dennis. The kill shot! It's over! Dennis Smith, welcome back to Dallas! Unbelievable!
Do you guys understand how good that this Curry range dagger must have felt for Dennis Smith Jr.? Dennis said that as soon as he hit this shot, he looked over towards the bench and said, hold that. For a little background, the Mavericks drafted Dennis Smith Jr. 9th overall out of NC State in 2017. If there was one thing that Dennis Smith Jr. had coming out of NC State, it was athleticism and talent. He was a high-flying point guard that was full of potential. His rookie year, he averaged 15.2 points, and though the efficiency was mediocre, the talent was always there. And rookie year efficiency is rookie year efficiency. Most guys only go up from their rookie year. How many guys do we know that have struggled with efficiency in their rookie year, then went on to become really good players? To be short, I thought that Dennis Smith Jr. was the Mavericks point guard of the future.
His baddest athlete on the floor, and he could do that at will. Smith, and he rears back in the thunderous flush by Dennis Smith Jr.
You should be embarrassed to let somebody come from one end of the floor and your defense is set and they go all the way to the basket and dunk and nobody steps out there to help.
In 2018, the Mavericks would acquire a generational Luka Doncic on draft night, and then everything would change. First, they'd move Dennis Smith Jr. off ball and then to New York for Kristaps Porzingis, and his career would unfortunately take a turn for the worse. But as of late, he's been enjoying somewhat of a resurgence in Charlotte this year that I'd love to talk more in depth with you guys about if you'd want a full video on him. Friday, March 24th, Dennis Smith Jr. would help the at the time 23-win Charlotte Hornets, who were short-handed and have been chilling at the bottom of the standings in the Eastern Conference, right above the Detroit Pistons, to a win against the Dallas Mavericks, who are currently fighting for their playoff lives in the Western Conference. This is what the Hornets bench looked like a game earlier against the New Orleans Pelicans. Somebody said that their taking your opponent has left the match to a whole new level. Even Michael Jordan himself has had enough, which really might be in the best interest for Hornets fans, but I'm sure you guys get my point nonetheless. This was a game that the Mavericks couldn't afford to drop, and they dropped it twice. To nobody's surprise, the vibes were completely off after losing to this team. After the first L, Luka Doncic would say, "It's really frustrating. I think you can see it with me on the court. Sometimes I don't feel it's me. I'm just being out there, you know? I used to have fun smiling on the court, but it's just been so frustrating for a lot of reasons, not just basketball." When Luka would be asked about what else has been bothering him, he would say that it was private issues. Unfortunately, there's not really a good way to spin any of this, because at best, Luka is simply miserable on the court. And that's being compounded by the bad basketball that the Mavericks have been playing. At worst, well, let's just hope that everything regarding his private life improves very rapidly. After this game, Kyrie Irving would drop an interesting nugget on the boos that the Mavericks had faced at home while being down 18 to a short-handed Charlotte Hornets team that was on the second night of a back-to-back. Quote, "So what? You obviously want to play well. It's only 5 people on the court that can play for the Mavs. If the fans want to change places, be my guest. Got years of work ahead to be great enough to be on this level. Our focus isn't necessarily on boos. It's on our performance and just being there for each other. Boos are just a part of it." End quote. Mavericks fans usually don't boo. So for this fan base to boo, you know that things had to be going pretty bad. It doesn't help that while all of this is going on, that Jalen Brunson is in New York living his best life while reflecting on what could have been as a Dallas Maverick. Brunson recently told Bleacher Report that "I can't say anything bad about Dallas, but obviously I wish that things would have happened differently." He continued saying that "there were 2 times that I thought we had offers on the table before the season, and then around I think December or January, they looked the other way. They had every right in the world to do so. I don't blame them for making any business decisions. That's on them. I've been a believer in the elite talent on the Mavericks' ability to carry this team despite its defensive deficiencies, but it's starting to look more and more like I was wrong. The injuries don't help, don't get me wrong, but the general feeling around the team isn't good, and today, I feel like this team has more questions than answers, and yet here I am, still not giving up hope, because I still believe that if you can get these 2 ridiculously talented and elite half-court scorers into the playoffs when the game is slowed down, then maybe, just maybe, we could be in for some fun. There are not very many playoff performers that rise to the occasion like Luka Doncic. I refuse to believe that the Mavericks would rob us of a playoff Luka Doncic this year. By the way, Mavs fans, how about Jaden Hardy? We made a video on him before the season even started, and some people, who will remain unnamed, said that we were too high on him. And look at him now, having multiple 20-point outings, averaging 17.6 points in the month of March, while shooting 44% from the field and 47.3% from 3. If you guys want another video on Jaden Hardy, just let me know. When it comes to the Mavericks, I know that I'm probably being too positive, but they're legit a team that I've had a lot of love for. With that being said, this team needs to decide if it wants to be good or bad really soon, because if they land somewhere in that nasty middle ground that nobody wants to be, they could end up potentially giving New York a lottery pick, as their pick this year is top 10 protected, and you can go ahead and thank Kristaps Porzingis for that one. The Mavericks have a very easy schedule remaining that this team really needs to take advantage of. Guys, in the comments below, let me know what you think of everything. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GETLIKECOOP, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.